right. Let me pull up Trevor's. Get Trevor all set up here. Hi, Trevor. Thanks for doing this.
It's no problem at all.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate to have Trevor Perard here coming to be with us to teach us about using D&D, Pathfinder, and that sort of role-playing games within the library system and how we can do that, talking about different options we may have. And Trevor, I'll let you introduce yourself if you would. And if you need it, there is captioning, and that will be available. We'll put the link to that in the chat. And also, we will get the G Drive materials up so you can have access to Trevor's information, so you don't have to take notes at all. We'll have it available for you at a later date. On top of that, we are recording, so just sit back and enjoy and listen to what Trevor has to teach us. All right, good sir, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Amy. My name is Trevor Perard. I work at the Davis County Public Library. I work with tech in the public, so I teach a lot of people tech, work with Google's small business to help teach that to other people. And then also, just as a person, I have a lot of interest in video games, board games, tabletop games, and it's something I've wanted to introduce into the library to work with teens and adults and some with children as well. So this is information I can provide to you all as well. So as you can see from the title, I will talk about Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, which is another big system, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of the others. So first, I'm just going to go over what today's agenda will be. So I'm going to cover game options, so what kind of games you can run, and questions you may want to ask yourself. Location of play, so we'll discuss that a little bit. Programming type, so how you're going to run the program and the questions you're asking of how do I build this out, and then end with issues and benefits of running these things, issues you may run into, and then the benefits of actually doing this in the library. So starting with game options, these are points to think about before beginning to design a program. So you're going to have to select a game, which depends on your audience, your experience, their experience, the time frame you have to play, and there's going to be other factors that can go into that as well, such as your location space. Do you have the space for it? Who's going to run it? There's a plethora of games to choose from. I'm just going to talk really about 3 main ones and then give you some other names that you can look further into. But people keep putting out new games every year, or revising old games. So some of the games are going to be easier to learn than others. Depends on how much time you want to take to learn them and how much you feel like you need to teach your patrons, children. Some are going to be easier to teach to children than others. Some are going to require a lot more math and development. And there are a few main staples that have plenty of reference material and places to go to receive help. So with choosing a game and going back over that, depending if you're playing with a dedicated group, so if you have a weekly group meeting up, you may decide, let's all work together to provide something, and you develop a world with them, or figure out what game you want to run with them as a group. But if you're doing just a one-off game, playing once, it's whoever signs up and shows up, you may already have everything set up from characters and how the plot's going to follow. So first I'm going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, which really is the mascot. If someone hears a game, they are usually hearing a Dungeons & Dragons, or you mention you're playing tabletop games. Most people, if they say when they're going, oh, you play Dungeons & Dragons, regardless if that's the game or you are playing or not. So Dungeons and Dragons is now produced by Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, who also produces Magic the Gathering card game. So they're one of the main companies for doing the board tabletop type gaming franchise. So they were the first traditional tabletop role-playing game released in 1974. It was based off a war minigame. So if you've ever heard of Warhammer 40K or Warhammer Fantasy, Warframe, BattleTech, it was based off those type of games. They turned it into just a full-on what we call pen and paper game. It's not, doesn't have to use minis, doesn't have to use a board. You can play it purely in your mind, well, what we call theater of mind. So they're currently in the 5th edition of the game. One caveat I will say is if you're trying to pick up a game, say your library already has some books for D&D and you're not having to purchase them, you'll want to look at the editions because you may have something that's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th and not the most current. And you actually have to relearn the systems and the rules between each one because they make variations, whether it be in just the rule set of how things interact or how you create characters. So Dungeons & Dragons is very DM and player interaction driven. And what I mean by this what I mean is that the story is working together. I don't want to say the system is rules light. It's probably somewhere in the middle, but a lot of what you want to do, you can ask your DM. And quickly on that, DM stands for Dungeon Master, the person who runs the game. You're going to hear me reference just DM when I say that, and that's what I mean. It's the person who runs the game. There are other titles for that. You may hear Game Master, Storyteller, Keeper. Depends on which game you're running. They all have different titles for those games. Jessica asks which has been my favorite edition. 5th edition, I think, is probably their best version. I honestly actually play more Pathfinder, which is a break off from D&D 3 to 3.5 edition, which I'll talk about here in a bit. So it's a story-focused design for D&D. It's very easy to just flow with the game and make things as you come along because it's not super tight into the rules where, no, we have to follow this rule to do this. It's much easier to do what we call homebrewing, where you'll just make things up as you go along, or just say, you know what, I'm going to allow for that because that sounds interesting for that character to do. So if you're not someone who wants to prep a massive amount or feels like that could be overwhelming, this allows you to do a little more improv. There's a large amount of resources online to learn how to play or how to be a DM and even to watch others play. So if you feel like you don't have a good base, you can really find a lot of stuff online. And I'll go over some of those sources at the end of this. So Pathfinder came about after D&D moved on to the 4th edition, and they carried on the 3.5 edition legacy. So when D&D moved to 4th edition, they really changed the way the game operated. It operated more like a MMO, like World of Warcraft, in the way that characters played out. You really had to play it on a map, a gridded map with figurines to really get the full sense of using your abilities. Paizo, the company that makes Pathfinder, did a lot of production for Wizards of the Coast for campaigns, adventure paths, and decided to go out on their own and do this. So they're currently in their 2nd edition, and like D&D, the difference between the 1st edition and 2nd edition is quite large, so you would have to learn each system differently if you want to run one. I will say personal preference, I really like Pathfinder, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. It has a large popular following, and it has a massive amount of content and pre-written campaigns. Some of those campaigns, which I'm actually playing in one with a friend right now, can take several years to complete. They also do small modules that may take a couple sessions. And they are constantly producing new ones. They're doing at least 1 to 2 a year for new ones with all different types of themes. One where you start out as a circus in different environments. One of the ones they just released takes place in a jungle system at a basically college wizarding school. So they have some very thematic designs. So there are a large amount of mechanics in the systems for Pathfinder. It's what you may hear people call crunchy. A crunchy system has a lot more to remember to know how to use. There's a lot of moving parts in it. So it can be a little bit daunting to learn, especially if you're having to teach a whole group how to do it. But if your character or your player wants to do something, it's pretty much built into the rules for them to do that. If there's a way to do it, it's somehow in their rules to be able to do. Where D&D, it's not really in the rules. It's talking with the person running the game and going, hey, I want to do this. How do we go about doing this? So an example is if you're trying to make a Captain America-like character who wants to use a shield as a weapon and throw it, for D&D, you're probably going to homebrew a lot more of that and figure that out. Where in Pathfinder, it's actually built into designing a character where you can make a character to do that. So it all depends on how much you, as a game master, want to work with your players or have them kind of work on their own, or if you want to have more that you have to do on your side. So the third one I'm mainly going to talk about is what's called Kids on Bike or Tales from the Loop. So these are two systems that allow you to reenact your own version of basically Stranger Things. It's probably the most modern way to put it, or the most relevant material. So Kids on Bikes basically is a setting is in the 1980s before cell phones and Google were a thing. Because a kid on bike can only go so far, but still has a little bit of freedom. And then Tales from the Loop allows you to play as children as well, but it has a setting where the world is a little more futuristic in that you have robots that are performing tasks. So it's a little bit of that blend of like Fallout. But you can also play as teens and adults in those games as well, so you're not just having to play as children. Kids on Bikes also has two offshoots, Kids on Brooms, which allows you to basically play Harry Potter. You get a broom, get spells, a wand, and just deal with what it would be to live in a magic world as a kid. And then Teens in Space, you simply play as teens in a space on like a spaceship. They have simpler mechanics than D&D or Pathfinder, meaning it's easier for players and DMs to pick up. It's pretty quick to make a character. Really, those games are meant to get together as a group before you play. It's what we call a session zero, where everyone gets together, discuss what they expect in the game, what they want to play, and then how your characters build. And you actually build the town together. So for those, you'll talk about what rumors you hear in the town, what important locations are in the town, what's your town famous for. So it's a very collaborative game that's light on rules and having to roll unless the person running the game requires it. But the game also works in a fashion they call failing forward, that even if you don't succeed on a roll, which can be devastating to players. I feel like they're having a bad game and a bad time because they just keep not being successful. The game falls forward where the story will push forward, but maybe not exactly in the way the player expected it to. So there may be some small consequences, but they're still getting rewarded for trying those actions. And again, it's easier to adapt to the real world and your location for playing. I'm actually planning on running a Kids on Bike game with some friends. I've actually been looking on Google Maps, finding a smaller city, and actually taking that picture, removing all the signs from it, and choosing the roads. And as we develop the town, put points down of where things are located. So now I'm going to talk about just some other games very briefly. Uh, World of Darkness is a series of games. They're a gothic punk interpretation of the real world. So in it, you can play as mages, vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein-esque monsters. You can play as hunters. It's probably not the best for younger kids, more for teens, just because it's a bit darker version of our world, but with a lot of supernatural elements. Shadowrun is a cyberpunk setting. For those who may not know what a cyberpunk setting is, it's a very futuristic type setting where technology has just far surpassed what we have. So if you've seen movies like iRobot or the game Cyberpunk 2077 that just came out, it's that type of setting. Call of Cthulhu is based on, of course, Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos and world building. It's a cosmic horror game. There's combat in the game, but it's much more about investigation. Powered by the Apocalypse is another series. They're really a design framework for several different games. One of them, the main ones, is called Dungeon World, which is a simple rule system, a rules light system, kind of like Kids on Bike or Tales from the Loop, that allows you to just play a rules light D&D or Pathfinder mainly. There are a few others. One is called Monster Hearts. It allows you to basically play as like monsters or like vampires and stuff as like teens in a high school. I will say that one though, giving an example, but is a little more adult into high school age, just based on the material within the book. Monster of the Week is a supernatural-esque game where you play hunters who are just trying to hunt down monsters, figure out what's going on in a town or a location, and figure out just the issues that are going on, if it's a monster or something else. So you can do these episodically where each week is something different. You can play with a new group every time, and it's really easy to just go with the flow on those. You don't have to do a whole lot of prep beforehand because a lot of your actions are going to be based on what your players do. You may have the monster, a couple people in the town, or a few locations that you've developed, and you just get them moved into those locations, finding out information. So it's fairly easy to play on a short notice. Overlight, I haven't played this one, but it's been interesting to read through the manual. It's a fantasy game based around magic through the use of colors. So there's different groups of people who, the way their groups or their culture is built is kind of focused around the color, and then there's magic to each of these colors that's specific to doing a certain type of magic, which could be a very interesting way to play for dealing with dynamics. And then Fate is a generic system for minimum dice rolling to promote minimal obstruction to role playing. So it allows you to just do minimal dice rolling and focus more on the storytelling and world building and character building. Overlight, as far as I know, is not affiliated with Brandon Sanderson. It's a standalone. I would have to look more into that, but I do not believe it's affiliated with him. So next I'm going to move on to the location of play. So what I'm really talking about is online or in person. And then there's advantages and disadvantages to both. And then there are several different options for where to play online. So I just realized that slide apparently does not take well to doing columns. So some of that's probably cut off to you all. Sorry about that. So online pros, it's easy to set up characters for players. You can already have them developed. They don't have to do anything. There's automatic rolling, so if you need them to roll a stat, so maybe you're trying to get them to persuade someone, so they need to roll persuasion, or you're trying to see if they need to notice something, so you get them to make a perception roll. Instead of having to worry about them finding what numbers they need to add or having to do the math themselves. You click on a button, it rolls the results for them, so you just know what it is and you don't have to worry about all that crunch. And there's no constraints on getting to the library. So if you have people who have trouble making it out, live further out, would love to attend but can't, this is a way to do that. Now for cons, it's not as personable. It's, if you don't already know the people pretty well, it's a lot different than sitting around a table and getting to know each other. We've all learned over COVID how important that actual physical interaction is with other people. It makes for a massive difference. It requires some more technical knowledge. From the sessions I've run online, you may spend the first little bit just explaining how one of the websites works or where things are located, so it's a little bit easier for them to navigate. And then it can be harder to maintain attention because it's really easy when you're setting in a computer to, if it's not your turn, to maybe open up another tab or be on your phone, or if there's other people in the house or an animal that's getting your attention. I imagine for any of us that have worked from home during this time, we've probably very well know what that is. So for in-person pros, it's easier communication. Just being around a table and being able to show someone where something is on a character sheet, it's a lot easier to like reach across the table and point at it, or tell them how to put things together, than trying to do it online where you may not exactly see what they're looking at. I'm seeing comments, Megan, where she talks about Discord works, but it is hard, especially when you go longer sessions. An hour may not be too bad, but if you start moving on to 3-4 hours, I'll notice even sometimes my attention starts to waver without a break. There's less technical issues in person, just if you're not having to use a computer. Now, maybe as the DM you are, just because you have all your notes on it, but as long as your computer doesn't crash or the battery doesn't die, there really shouldn't be an issue there. As for the cons, it requires more immediate setup. Using the online services, I can set up games well ahead of time, and then really all I have to do is log in at the time of playing and just go. I don't have to worry about grabbing a bunch of physical material to move around and set up. And then there's a larger need for player knowledge on mechanics and rules, just because you don't have that automatic rolling or going, oh, I have this ability or this spell, and just clicking on it to cast it, and it pulls it up and it shows you what it does. You actually have to go into your notes or pull out a player book and read through it and know where to find it. So that can eat up a little bit more time. So for setting up in person, I don't have a slide for this. It all depends on how you want to play. Really, the main thing you need is just dice, any of the manuals for any of the games you're running, and any of your notes. You don't have to play on like a board. Some people will use dry erase boards that have 1-inch grids on them. Some people will use rolls of sheets that are dry erase that they can wipe off. I actually have used Roll20 and Foundry, which I'll actually talk about a little bit more than this. We do use Discord for our cameras and for talking to each other, but we use other programs for the actual playing in visuals. And I actually will go over the first one of those now. So Roll20 is a free website. You don't have to pay for it. If you want to pay for it, it's simply to remove the ads, pretty much like anything else you may pay for, like Hulu. You'll pay to have Hulu's ads removed. So what you're seeing on the screen right now for upcoming games is actually what I have set up for my account for playing the library. So like the Rise of the Moon Lords is an actual game I play with my friends that he runs. The Masks of Nyarlathotep is in the bottom middle, is actually a Call of Cthulhu game I've run. But at the top, there's the D&D 5e Beginners Library Program and the Dungeon World Library Program. Those are both games I've run with adults and kids, and it's one I can reuse over and over again. I just reset it to the base setting and just run it with the next group if I need to. So I set it up once, and then that's all I really have to set it up. I don't have to work on setting it up again. So this is what the play screen looks like. So the one I run for D&D is the Lost Mines of Phandelver. Where you see the giant image is actually where you'll have your playboards, and you can switch between different maps. So you could have all your maps set up at once. So maybe you have a home screen just to start on before you move to a map, and then maybe you have a world map that shows the whole world or a section of a country. And then you may have a city map that just shows you all the locations in the city, so they know where you're talking about or where they can point at it and tell you where they want to go in the city if they're got some downtime. Or maybe you have a battle map of where all the characters are fighting. Over on the right, you'll see that's like the chat log, and you can see there where I've actually had posted a spell, and it gives you all the information you need right there. You don't have to go searching for it. And then at the bottom, a person where they had made their roll. Again, it makes it a lot easier if your characters aren't knowledgeable about the system. And then, so these are the settings, controls, and chat, and the chat I just talked about. The settings on the far left actually give you information. So the Lost Mines of Phandelver is an actual D&D module. Roll20 has modules on there that you can buy, you upload them, and then it gives you all this information, all the maps you need. You just have to go through and learn the information. So here on the left, it gives me an introduction for the game, what the story behind it is, and then gives me different parts for where the story is going to move forward and take place. And then I can click on each one of those when I get to that point and need to read up on them or to know which characters are involved in which issues. In the middle, you're going to have your controls. So if you need to look at different information like classes, feats, items, instead of having to pull out a book and search through it, you can find it there, or you can actually use this search at the top of that screen to search for the items. And then on the far right, of course, is the chat, just a little bit easier to read. You could see where I made a roll there at the top, and then Jessia wrote herself, and then Mark had posted something for one of his spells, which allowed everyone to see what he was casting. So if you're playing with new players who don't know what they're doing, don't know what spells are, they can click that, or they can say, hey, how does this work? And they can link it to me, and I can tell them how it works. And the other one I'm going to talk about is Foundry Virtual Tabletop. Real quick disclaimer, I've not personally run a game in it. I currently am playing in one. I've talked to a friend at length about it. It can be run remotely from your computer or a central server through what they call Forge. It allows you to play it from wherever you are, much like Roll20. You don't even have to be at your own computer unless you specifically have notes saved to your computer. It has a lot higher customizability than Roll20 does. Was talking to my friend, and he actually wrote about 350 lines worth of coding just to make the UI look nicer for everybody. So it allows you a lot of customization to make it look like you want. It has fewer game systems integrated than Roll20, but it's getting more, and there's developing more. And it can be better for running a game of Pathfinder because it has a lot more Pathfinder integrated. Whenever a new book or new part comes out, it actually gets added into the game. So when they do their adventure paths, like the one I'm planning on running, it has already been integrated into Foundry. So maps, character information, monster information is right there and regularly accessible. And then they have the character sheets, and basically you just start punching in the information you need, changing your stats, and it will auto calculate a lot of that information. So in the in between those two, I'll say Roll20 if you're wanting to run Dungeons and Dragons, a more simple program that's a little bit easier to learn. Stick with that. Foundry is much more like if you're big into Pathfinder, Foundry is going to be the best one to run. The caveat I will say with Foundry is that whoever is running the game will have to buy a licensing key, and the licensing key is just a one-time payment of $50. So now I'm going to talk about program types. These are questions you're going to ask yourself when figuring what you want to do. So what type of game do you want to run? can make it easier to figure out what system you want to run. So are you wanting to do a mystery and investigation game? So something like Call of Cthulhu, if you're fine with horror, could work. Maybe you just want to play as kids who are kind of doing like a Hardy Boys situation. Kids on Bike or Tales from the Loop may work. Do you want to do something futuristic or something Lord of the Rings like? Those will all determine what kind of system you run. Or a game like Fate, because it's so general, you can run really any game into it. It's just you're going to have more on your side to develop a world with all that information, or collab with your players to develop it. Again, are you playing with children's, teens, or adults? A game like Call of Cthulhu probably is not going to work with younger children just because it deals with something a little more abstract than they may fully understand. So the impact may not be as big on them as it would for older teens or adults. Adults may not want to play as children, so they may not want to do Kids on Bike or Tales from the Loop. So do you want to run a multi-year campaign, or do you just want to do one that takes a session or 2 or 3 that you can do and complete in maybe a couple hours? If you're one where you sit down and you go start to finish in maybe 2 to 3 hours, we call that a one-shot, which is probably a little bit easier for doing in the library if it's just a group you're setting up and then that's the only time you're going to play with them. You're not making it an ongoing thing with one group. So maybe you do a module, which can take several sessions. If you're going, oh, every Monday for the next month, I'm going to play with this group and we're going to run through it to kind of teach them the game and get them playing. Again, how complex do you want the game to be? Pathfinder, I would say I'd put there probably pretty close to the top of just crunchy, a lot of rules and a lot of systems. Same with Shadowrun. Shadowrun is a very dense rules-based game with a lot of interactions between them. It can be hard for new players, especially if you don't know the rules super well yourself, having to teach a bunch of other people the rules. A game like Dungeon World or Kids on Bike is more storytelling and less dice rolling. Do you want an open sandbox for your players to explore, or do you want to do a laser-focused story that is small in scope? You'll hear a term thrown around by people who play a lot of tabletops. They'll call it railroading, which is basically you're on a rail, you move in one direction, and there's no real freedom to try other things. And that has its pros and cons, where if you're working with younger children or people who have a lot of analysis paralysis, making hard time decisions, it can be easier to do that, of keeping them on track and focused. Where if you have people who have played a bit and like, no, I'd like to explore and kind of create this world, which is what Kids on Bikes really is opens up more of a sandbox. And then you may have some small, like laser-focused stories within it. So you can also mix them as well and integrate them together. And then again, do you want the game to be plot-driven or character-driven? A plot-driven game is going to probably move at a little bit faster pace because you're trying to move through the stuff. You're not worried about character arcs and character development. Where a character-driven game is about the interactions between the characters and how their relationships develop, as well as how they develop as how the players develop their characters from the first session to the last session. Claire brings up Hugmire. It's actually one I've not heard of. Feel free to share any other games you all know of. I just wanted to mention a few. Like I said, there's a lot. With little kids, it's much easier to find things that's really going to interest them, and just reading it sounds like a pretty good one. So the last thing I was going to talk about is possible issues and benefits, and it looks like me again putting this into a column of one or the other kind of messed up the view, so I'll just kind of go over those. So possible issues you may run into, again, are technical problems. Someone couldn't connect, couldn't get their microphone working, couldn't get their headset, so they couldn't hear. I've run into those issues with using Discord and Roll20. Then derailing Like I said, there's railroading, and then derailing is your players just do something so far outside of your expectation, it's hard to bounce back and respond to it. There's a term that gets thrown around. They call them murder hobos. It's basically a term referring to people who just do really chaotic things, who are like, oh, I want to attack this guard in the middle of town, and that's a bad idea. So they really can throw off what you're planning to do with your story. So it's learning how to correct that. I had a kid who was playing and wanted to try to attack the bartender, and I had to kind of pull it back and say, hey, we're in a small town, the bartender's well known, everyone knows each other. That would be a really bad idea, and simply explained it to them, and they were able to understand where I was coming from. Again, that leads into the unforeseen game decisions. Sometimes players will ask to do really weird, wacky things, and sometimes you can go with it. Sometimes you may have to stop and go, okay, let's take a time out and discuss our expectations. If you're playing a very serious game and they try to do something very comedic, it goes against the flow and the theme. So you may want to stop and go back to, hey, this is what we discussed on the type of game we were playing. It's pretty common for people to want to begin to play Lord of the Rings and then end up playing a Monty Python and the Holy Grail type game. If all your players are fine with that, that's fine. But if there's a disconnect between players and DM, it makes it really hard and a struggle to go through with it. Attendance issues, getting people to come back repeatedly if you're trying to do a longer game can be hard. Heck, it's hard as an adult to do that sometimes just because life gets in the way. And then player versus player drama. So the base default for a lot of these games is there's not player versus players. The players are meant to work together. To have it be to where players can attack each other, steal from each other, that is a discussion you have to do at the beginning and make sure everyone is okay with it, and to what limits do you want to set on doing that. It's like, no, we're going to have some confrontation. And having confrontation between characters that's not an issue. It's when the issue goes from, I disagree with this method, to, I'm going to stab you now. That becomes a big issue. And then I didn't want to end on a sour note, so I want to talk about some of the benefits. Creative skills development. This really helps with kids being able to develop their creative skills of coming up with out-of-the-box thinking, so creative problem solving as well. Allows them to work on their math skills by figuring out what they have to do. Again, that's more of an in-person one of doing their math. So for younger kids, helps them work on that. Social skills training, by putting them in a room or even online, you have to learn how to communicate effectively with each other, and maybe it puts you outside of what you're normally used to experiencing. So you have to think of ways that you can deal with a situation that may not be normal for you. Can help build empathy by setting them in situations where they have to work with a character and maybe realize what they're going through. It can be tailored to help children who have specific problems, or be built to have inclusivity to them depending on the game. So I've seen them where people have used these with kids who have some kind of emotional trauma to help them maybe work through emotional trauma or fears. Amy, you posted a good point. I've seen several people, like the social workers, use it for that because it's a safe space for you to develop that. When I talk about inclusivity, Kids on Bike actually mentions it in their rules, having a character who maybe uses a wheelchair or has a crutch. Talks about things. It even talks about in their game manual about playing a character with autism and discussing how to more appropriately include that in the world and building up the game. And then it can work on narrative and storytelling skills, because you're having to have these kids or teens, adults, take on these whole other characters that are not themselves. And I've played some characters that are very not me, so I've had to do a bit of research and looking into, okay, what are the motives for this character? What kind of emotions are they going to feel during this? And then You can also tie it into your collection. So maybe you're playing a fantasy game and they're really into it and they want to learn more about dragons. So maybe, well, we have a book called The Hobbit that focuses about a journey of some groups to go get some treasure from a dragon and take back their home, some dwarves to take back their home. So depending on the type of game you're running, you can tie it into your collection of books, video games, movies, whatever else. And then last, I will go over some further resources or media. And these are just some quick ones I found on a quick search that the rest of y'all should be able to find pretty easily and also branch out from there. So Reddit is a big one I use just because you have a lot of DMs or players getting on there. Dungeon Masters is one for people who are running games. Same for DM Academy. It's a place for people to ask questions like, hey, I'm new to this. I'm wanting to do this. How do I do it? Pathfinder RPG has all the information for Pathfinder. There is another Pathfinder one that is about their professional group where they run actual campaigns. You can character all the way from one place, from one city to another place. Your character actually travels with you and levels up through an actual system. And then RPG just talks about RPGs in general. Websites, the DM Layer and Level 1 Geek are two I was able to quickly find that just provides blog type information on them. And as for media, actual plays and podcasts, actual plays are like the actual video recordings where you can watch them play and interact. The Glass Cannon Network started out as the Glass Cannon Podcast as a Pathfinder 1 play group, and they've actually branched out to form their own network where they have, instead of it just being the 5 players they had, it now has a lot of other players on a lot of different games, and they're pretty inclusive with having people of color, and it's not just the 5 main white cis male casts from the original. The Adventure Zone is done by 3 brothers and their father. It's a comedy adventure game. Critical Role is probably the most well-known, ran by Matt Mercer, who's a voice actor with other voice actors. It's not one I've personally watched, but I know a lot of people approve of it. Dimension 20 is led by a cast member of College Humor, and they have a bunch of different campaigns. They have one where they play pirates, one where they play in a Candyland type setting. I just finished up one of theirs, which is Of Mice and Murder. It's a murder mystery where they all play as anthropomorphic animals. And theirs is a mixture of serious and comedy. Very well developed. He's one of those that does things pretty much on the cuff, doesn't have a lot written out. And there's many, many more. These are all good ways to watch how someone runs a game and gets a feel for running and even playing based on watching those. So that's the end of my presentation. That's actually my last slide. Hopefully for some of y'all this helped with learning more information. And if you want to reach out to me, please do. I forgot to put my email in my slides, so I will just type it here in chat. So if you want more information or have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Or as I was talking to my coworker and having him go over some of this with me to make sure I had covered pretty much everything, because he's a big tabletop player as well. I could always try to run a small session online even for some people if they want to kind of learn the basics and get an idea of how it works for themselves. So if there's any more questions, I'm free to answer.
Trevor, I was wondering if perhaps if someone wanted to start a campaign, if you and or someone out there might be willing to do like an inter-county type virtual where, you know, you can bring kids from different counties together and then every once in a while hopefully get together or something like that.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. That's when I was talking to my coworker, thought about, okay, I could probably run a game for some of the people who are interested in it to give them some practice at it. So I'm just trying to go back through chat now and see if there's anything that...
Megan asked about how much work time do you spend ahead of time prepping a session?
It depends on the game. Something like Pathfinder, I would spend more time on that. You can spend a couple hours, depends on how much you want to write or where you're at. If you're going into like a combat for a session and it's going, okay, this combat's probably going to take the whole 2 hours that we're playing, there's not as much prep for that. It's more prepping for what's going to happen after that. You may wait a week. And if you're having to take off a week or two because of vacations or work schedules, it gives you a little bit more time to prepare. So I may spread that out over time. Where a game like Kids on Bikes, you kind of have a plot point of going, well, where it depends. If the kids go to the local diner or they go to the movie theater, I have different settings for each one of those. You could set those up and I could set those up weeks ago and they may not ever take effect or be played because I haven't ventured there yet.
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions. Can you see the chat at the bottom, or do you want me to read it to you?
So,
Good.
which one are we talking? Are we talking about Sean's?
Yeah.
Okay.
And above, let's see, Jessica's above too. So she was asking. There's groups all over, Jessica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, I will say that can be. Matt Mercer did have to come out and talk about that. Hey, not everyone's going to play like me. That because people were starting calling it the Matt Mercer effect. Everyone wanted a DM to be like Matt Mercer, and the other question was like, well, why can't you be a player like one of his cast? I think that's a session 0 question of, hey, I'm not Matt. I'm not going to play this game like Critical Role. And then it's all about setting expectations correctly, which is always important for any game of what setting up, what's right and what's allowed, what taboos you want to have, like what you're not going to discuss in the game. So figuring out what triggers people just don't want to have to talk about, or if it comes up, to pause and then go, hey, let's backtrack what happened. That's a touchy subject. We're going to go in a different track. And then I think there's one where Claire said, yes, about also having fun. The game really is. You'll have some game runners who think it's me versus the players who get that mindset. It's us versus the DM, and it's not. It's a collaborative game. It's I want to have fun, you want to have fun, let's have fun to do this. Brendan Lee Mulligan, who runs the Dimension 20 games, said the other day when I was watching one of his that he goes, I don't care when I'm DMing if my dice succeed or if they fail. I'm going to have a good time either way. I will push the story forward regardless of whether I succeed or fail. For players, it's a little bit differently. So it's working to help them succeed even when their roles may not be the best.
Mm-hmm. Or if they spent tons of time on a backstory and then they die.
Yes, that can happen too. And again, some DMs are very, if your character dies, your character's going to die. And then others are very, very much forgiving of, are you sure you want to do that? Usually if you hear your DM say, are you sure you want to do that? It may not be the best of choices. But again, if anyone has any questions or would like to possibly run something, feel free to email me and I will get back to you and we can try to set something up. That's all I really have, Amy. Thanks again for letting me do this.
Yeah, absolutely. This was really great and really informative. Thank you so much, Trevor.
No problem.
I also recommend throwing out questions on the Kayak listserv. There are other groups around there. I just hooked up with Trevor because over and over I was told he just knows his stuff and is able to really condense it for us to understand. So Trevor, thank you so much. There's a lot of accolades to you here, and we appreciate very much all the time you took to not just present, but to put it together for us. So thanks, y'all.
No problem at all.
All right, thanks again.
Thanks everyone else who showed up and asked questions.
All right, well, we're headed toward a break. If you are interested in coming back at noon, we have all 3 rooms are running. So in this room, we will have from Miami University, which is actually in Ohio. It's Jason Scheinman's coming to talk about a story exhibit that is available to us in the public libraries and as well to schools. So it could be a really good opportunity to give information to a school and build that relationship, or just bring it into your branch or your library system. And so we'll have that. And straight after that is the Kentucky Humanities with Kathleen Poole. And she's going to talk about Primetime and Chautauqua series and probably some other things. They do a bunch of great stuff and love working with libraries. In room 2, KET is coming to share a wealth of information. And like I said, we're recording. I'd have a hard time choosing between all of these because in room 3, Debbie Hibbard, our own from KDLA, is going to be speaking about the youth kits we have. So the book discussion and thematic kits that I often send examples out on the listserv, and as well as the new storytelling collection, of which Willie Claflin is a part, as well as the Norfolks that we had last year at the conference. So it's that level of quality, skill, and love and care for those storytellers. They're all nationally renowned and awarded. So 3 options for 12 o'clock, 3 rooms, and all are being recorded. Enjoy your break, and we'll see you again in 10 minutes.